Hello and welcome to another episode of Ewell Acres. Today we're going to continue on with our journey of beekeeping. Today we're going to be talking about how to start a package of bees, the advantages and disadvantages. Let's get started. Well, we'd like to thank you for joining us today as we go ahead and take a look at how to start a beehive with a package. Now, first off, what is a package? A package is a small plastic or wooden box that has a cage wire wrapped around it, so that way the bees aren't physically going to be able to escape. You're going to have approximately 3 pounds of bees inside this small cage. Then you're going to have a queen in what's called a queen cage inside of it as well, along with a 1 pound can of sugar to help them survive while they're physically enclosed in this structure. Typically speaking, this is used to help transport bees either short distance or long distance. Once they are in there, you want to get them out as soon as possible to get them established in their new hive. Now, this could be a matter of hours, or it could be a couple days. Typically speaking, though, you don't want the bees to be inside this package for longer than 2 or 3 days, because their only food source, their only tight knit, is going to be that 1 pound can of sugar syrup. And so you want to get them out and into their new home as soon as possible. Now, what this new package is used for is to collect bees from a new location, the queen, and stick them in their hive. The queen cage herself is going to be open, and typically you will have the queen with these bees for several days before she's actually released. And the reason why is because this is going to be a brand new queen to brand new hives, typically speaking, and they're not going to be used to this queen. And so this will give them time for the bees to get used to the pheromone scent of that queen and actually accept her as their queen. Sometimes, if you try and release the queen sooner than these bees are ready, or will actually accept it as their queen, then they could kill this queen, not recognizing her. So that's why it's important that you actually give time for that queen to become adapted to these new bees. Now that we know what the advantage of, or what kind of is contained in the package and what it's used for, let's go ahead and... There is one other thing that I was thinking about, though, is how is it that you actually create a package? The interesting thing is you can literally take bees from a dozen different hives, scoop up a small cup of them, and put it in. And that's often what happens, is a beekeeper will collect a whole bunch of bees and just put them in a box. And that's why they have to become more familiar with that. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the advantages of a package. The nice thing is a package is typically going to be a little bit cheaper method of how to acquire bees than some of the others that you'll come across. Typically, it's going to be about, at least in my area, the spring of 2020, you can expect to find a package of bees from about $135 to $150, give or take, depending on where you're getting it from. The other nice thing is you can literally have it shipped in from anywhere in the world, as long as you're able to get it shipped fast enough so that way the bees don't die. They can be from a local beekeeper, or they can be halfway around the world. And if there's a location that you're not able to introduce new bees, it is a really, really great way to be able to introduce these bees into a new situation. You also are going to know the genetics. You know the queen because of what you're getting it from with the beekeeper. That is going to be the nice thing about it. Also, typically speaking, when you're going to be collecting bees, they're going to be not having comb that come with it, and so you are able to break the brooding cycle of the bees, which means you're going to be able to break the brood cycle that might come with it, so it will help to decrease the initial population of mites that are coming with the bees, because in order for mites to survive, they have to have brood that they lay in. So this will actually help to break that laying cycle. Now, oftentimes, the other great thing about when you have packages that are coming from a reputable source, whether the queen dies or you have some other issues, that beekeeper or the location that you're getting the bees from will actually guarantee those bees and replace the queen if she accidentally dies, or if the bees suddenly die on you. There is generally a guarantee to replace those bees, so you're not going to be out of some financial loss. But that does depend on the individual person that you're working with where you get these packages. So let's go ahead and now talk about some of the disadvantages of a package. When you go to get a package, there is going to be no brood, there's going to be no frames already drawn out typically, and so you are starting out from scratch. So it's going to take time for these bees to start to build up. So you're probably going to have to do a little bit of some feeding with a pollen patty or sugar syrup to help them get going, because they are going to have no food reserves whatsoever. The other major advantage is that there is going to be typically a substantial amount of equipment costs that you have to do, and so you'll want to have all your equipment ready to go ahead of time. So once again, mentioned before that typically a package is going to be formed from many hives. So as you're combining them together, you're going to have some carniolan bees, you're going to have some Italian bees or different species if that's what the beehive keeper is collecting that forms the packages. Now, typically speaking, this is not such a big problem or a deal, because the bees will adapt and work with each other. And the main thing that's important is what species of bee is the queen. That's the utmost important. So another major disadvantage is that sometimes it can take a little bit for the queen bee to actually get established, and she's going to have her pheromones need to be recognized by the colony itself. Or else, if they don't recognize the queen or they don't accept her as their queen, then the bees may potentially kill that queen. So there is that downside. But there is a really great way how to avoid this. All you got to do is just take some steps in a very specific order to make certain that you properly acclimate a queen to the hive. How you're going to do that is, when you first go to take the sugar syrup or the package, I would recommend taking a sugar solution of 1:1 in a spray bottle and go ahead and just mist down the bees that are inside the package. What that's going to do is it's going to give them some moisture, it's going to give them a chance to start licking each other and really calm down. Having bees calm down when you go to install them will make it a whole lot easier. Then what you're going to do is take the package, lift it up gently, and give it a good shake or a smack down on the ground. Not too forceful, but good enough to have all the bees drop to the bottom, so that way they're not all around. Quickly remove that can of sugar syrup and then cover that hole directly back up, so that way you can take the queen out and then stick the can of syrup back in. Go ahead, observe the queen, make certain she is healthy and everything is good. Oftentimes, there's going to be a small little cork covering the hole. Pull that cork out and immediately take your thumb and cover the hole so the queen can't escape. Then you're going to take a small marshmallow or another piece of candy on hand, and you're going to very immediately shove it into the hole so the queen can't escape. Once you've got that, you can go ahead and take the queen and set her off to the side. Go ahead and mist the bees down a little bit more with sugar water, get them calm. Then what you can do is take that package again, give it a gentle jolt on the ground, all the bees will fall to the bottom again. Take the can of syrup, lift it up and out, then take the package, lift it upside down, and shake it into that super that you've got preset. I would recommend leaving 2 to 3 frames on either side and having the center completely open, so that way you have a bunch of bees able to fall in. Now, there is most likely that you're not going to be able to get all the bees out. Go ahead and take that thing, set it off to the side, so that way bees can gradually crawl their way into the hive and rejoin the colony. At this point, you can go ahead and put your in-hive feeder in if you want to, or place the other frames in. Take the queen cage, setting her very gently on the side inside, and nest it between 2 of the frames, pushing it together. Now, when you go to do this, it is very, very important that you take the queen cage and you lift it upside down, having the sugar itself facing upward or to the side. The reason why this is important is, typically speaking, there's going to be a few helper bees inside that cage with the queen to help her out, to be her personal servants, if you will. And if you place the marshmallow or candy side downward, sometimes one of those helper bees could potentially die. And when the other bees go to eat through that marshmallow, it's going to have trapped the entrance hole, so the queen is not able to get out. And if that's the case, the queen will die as well. So that's why it's important that way you have the marshmallow physically located upward, so that way the queen will be able to escape. During this time, after you've installed the queen cage, go ahead and put your inner cover on, your top cover, and leave it alone for several days. Do not mess with it. The more you mess with it, the more potential the bees are to swarm. Go ahead and give them time for the queen bee to get acclimated to it, and after you're ready, come back in a couple days, go ahead and lift your lid gently, and double check to make certain that the queen is actually released. If she isn't released, then you can take a small needle or something and poke the marshmallow to help the queen get out, because by that point in time, her pheromones should be fully acclimated. Go ahead and take the items out, and then go ahead and seal the hive back up and leave it alone for another week or two. The more you get into the hive, the more paranoid the bees will be, and less likely that they are going to think that this is not their home. Now, when you go to, or this home not necessarily isn't their home, but it's going to be a little bit more dangerous, and predators are constantly getting into it. Another thing that I would highly recommend as you go to actually install this package, make certain that it is on a day that's going to be relatively cool, so that way the bees are able to not be overheated. It's not going to be too cold. It will be a nice moderate temperature that they're most likely to be accepted into the hive and can help to maintain it. A lot of times when you go to install a package, you're going to have a very large front entrance, and oftentimes the colony itself is going to be too small to be able to defend such a large, wide entrance. So what you can do is get what's called an entrance reducer, and that will help to greatly reduce the major entrance, and so that way you have a much smaller area that bees have to physically defend or help to keep cool, making the job of the bees much easier by having that. As the colony grows and as they need more room, then you can go ahead and take that entrance reducer out of it as the colony grows and is more able to defend itself. So, those are some of the advantages and disadvantages of working with a package of bees. If there's anything I potentially missed, go ahead and let us know. I'm always glad to learn more information and see what we can do about it. Now that you've kind of learned about the advantages and disadvantages, is the package right for you, or is there another method of acquiring bees that you actually prefer? Go ahead and let us know in the comments below. Once again, thanks for watching. Go ahead and give us a great thumbs up and subscribe if you like what we're doing, as it will greatly help this channel to grow. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.